Go live. Hello everyone. Right then, is it working? Is it working, he says. He says, is it working? Keep asking that question. I should put on my headphones and check to see if it's working, shouldn't I? That would be sensible, Alex. That would be really sensible. Put on your headphones and check if it's working. Ah, good lord, you're going to have a bright idea soon. Give me a half a second. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Yay. Is it working? It is working! Hello, everyone. Oh, hello, everyone. I'm back in my office. I'm running late, so I apologise. But I'm back in my office. Oh, it's a mess. It's a tip. I literally got home like 90 minutes ago. I've been on the phone to Dan several points at that point. I've dealt with... my poor mum has had some mini asthma attack. My sister's had a mini asthma attack. I've had a delivery. I've had all sorts of weird things that have happened. So, basically, instead of doing books, because I am now officially, after a 2-hour journey in the car driving took 5.5 hours, I am not at the point at which I'm going to read books. I'm going to the point at which I'm going to answer questions. So, I'm not in the right timbre to review books. I'm going to get too sarcastic, even books I like. I'm going to upsetting things which are going to upset authors, which I don't mean. Because of that's the mood I'm in. So, you missed the block calendar. The block calendar is behind me. I am going to move that a little bit over there. I might need to move it. I might need to change the elevation on this camera. I might need to change the other. Currently, I've set it up quickly. I do admit I've set it up quickly, and some things have gone wrong. Did the puffer download work? Sometimes, in the nicest way, you look knackered. Yes, I am. I do not recommend a month of house hunting and driving up and down the country for various job interviews and things. So far, I can honestly report that for 4 out of 4 interviews, they've gone with the internal candidate. Hey, it happens. I'm sorry, I should not use Knight 681 as the example for that, but I was going, Knight is the person I spend the most time answering questions of, etc., and therefore one of the people I probably have the most interactions with on this channel. And yet, he doesn't ever turn up to the Twitch stream, the Discord chats. He doesn't do those things because he has other things to do, which is fine. But therefore, he is kind of the perfect example for me to go, I don't know him. I know him. I know his questions. I enjoy his questions. I hope someday we might meet, because it'd be nice to meet him in person. But, no. Don't know. You know, I could be... I have to admit, I am prejudging in that all my interactions with him, with them, have suggested that a Knight schedule is a bloke. And I'm presuming that, but I don't even know that's true. I just know I chat with him a lot. On here. Now, what was I looking for? I was looking for something. I don't need these on anymore. I know what I was looking for. I was looking for something which is actually supposed to be on my screen. Yes. Engage with audience. Start a Q&A. And docs chat. It should be connected. Yes, it is. Right then, so if I now go window, there you go. Q&A should have popped up. Ba-da-da-dum. 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 So I have a Q&A. I have a live chat active as well, so I can see what's going on in live chat. And give me half a second and I'll have the super chat system activated as well. Because I have experience of not having had that activated, and what could go wrong in that? Both me and, I have to admit, both myself and Drakenfell have a small fear over over missing super chats. We'd feel absolutely tremendously guilty if we did. So we both are absolutely paranoid about it. Absolutely and incredibly paranoid about it. Oh, so hello everyone, how are you all doing? Oh, I'm awake. So, no, sorry, if you really want to know, mail. It doesn't really matter, as I said, it was just a presumption, but I'm just saying that's the thing. I chat with, I do apologise for using, but you were the best example to use, because you're the one you're kind of known on the channel. It's almost, sometimes I've bumped into people literally in Australia and America who, well, Australia and, well, he was an American in Canada, who basically said, they always mention you and your questions, so, you know. Usually it's you ask the question before they manage to get a chance to, and they like you for that because it means it saves them the effort. Nice use of the Lord's Prayer, Stafford. It has been snowing in Cornwall. Doctor is maybe getting either brew or food. No, Doctor was literally setting up computer. At the moment, my computer is... it's working. Let's put it this way. It's in working configuration. But my chair is... I have no idea what's happened with my chair. My chair is rocking from side to side. This is not unusual. This is not normal for my chair, so I have to fix my chair. And I won't get a chance tomorrow. I'm going to say this now. The reason I haven't produced a Christmas video list like I normally do yet is quite simple. I am now taking Mum to a medical appointment tomorrow. So that means the time I was planning on spending recording videos and setting videos up tomorrow won't happen. So I've moved Friday's scheduled video to Tuesday. Monday I should hopefully be home in time to do the live. And hopefully I manage to catch up on recordings and get ahead. Ouch, gallbladder. That's not fun. So, the questions should be live, and people should be able to use the questions if you have any. If you don't have any, that's unusual. But hey, we'll just chat away. And once again, sorry for being late. I would never forget you, Stephen. Never forget. There is always dog's milk. No, we are not going to dog's milk. Besides, I have 2 boy dogs. Where do you think we're getting the milk from? Yeah. Have I seen Drax's video on the Calendar Night Action? Any opinions? No, I haven't seen his video, honestly, but we have been discussing things around that topic for about the last 3 to 4 months. So, if it, as thoroughly researched as it is, I have a feeling he will have hit the nose on the head. There are a few other interesting things going on. Not showing questions. That's strange. Let's go to this. Restore chat. Questions. Yeah, I'm not getting any questions showing up in the Q&A in the questions thread. I don't know why. And I can't have any questions either. Test questions. Send anything in here and that got through. Hello. That got through from Seneca. What is the difference between IHP and brake horsepower? IHP tends to refer to setting the engine, what it's theoretically putting out. There'll be a setting on the engine. Brake horsepower tends to be referred to what's actually being put into the shaft. So it's where you measure it. Is it working now? Well, I can see Seneca Nero's test question. So I think the Q&A is working. Send a question hasn't shown up. Let me end the Q&A. And let me start the Q&A. Sorry. If you're wondering why I'm making a load of Pancreas jokes this evening, it's because I was chatting with Dr. Dan while I was setting up the computers. And he actually said the words to me, but, you know, if I drank any, you know, if I've only survived with iron brew for the entire last 72 hours, he's really worried about my pancreas. And I went, well, yeah, that's my pancreas. I would be worried about it. That's better. Not sure why it decided to go weird on me. Is the camera slowly moving, do we think? In which case, should I worry it's about to fall off? Well, if it's not shown up yet, I'm not sure why it's not showing up, the Q&A. Oh well. Why is the Q&A not working today? Questions haven't come up on the Q&A, have they? Right then. Dismiss that. Let's have an argument. Why is that not working? Did I have a lot of snow? I had a lot of snow. Why is that not working? Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn it off and but on again, aren't I? Start Q&A. I can't even type in the questions for some reason. The Q&A system is completely broken. It's not showing up at all for me to type in it. Even when I type here. Hello, Artistic Bone. Well, that worked. So, is it working for some but not all? Is the question. Can everyone who's tried to put in a question put in a question, and let's see if it works? And if it just continues not working yet, the testing for Colin. Everyone who can, please put one in. If it's just not working for me and it's working for everyone else, that's fine. I wonder if that was the problem. Yay, that's working now. On that position. Let's see if it's working on this position. It is working! I think it's working. Yay! And it's back. It's working. It's working. So it's not working for Verdun. Okay. It's on a go slow. The really fun thing, I will add, and the thing that sort of really, you know, helps me here, is that Let's see if that's working good. Test is going through. It's on a go slow. Okay. So is it accurate to say the Italian battleship Roma's interior was designed for peacetime gunboat diplomacy operations? I would say all ships which are designed to fulfill the function of capital ship duties will have that. And flagship duties, they will all have an internal which is designed for a lot of internal peacetime functions. And it's just part of life. Just checking in with family. Yeah, it's all good. Now, can I see the previous comments in here? No, I can see the testing ones. Second, how do you refit a Roman-era trimaran from modern 20th century naval combat? Well, first I'd get some matches, then I'd strike them, burn it down, and that would save a lot of trouble for everyone. No. Seriously, if I was using a trimaran for modern naval combat, it would be used as a spy ship. I would not be looking at it as a warship, I'd be looking at it as a spy ship, and that was what I would build. I would fit it out to do. Spy work. Where is my thing to turn on my lights? Ah, there it is. Yay, my lights are on. Sorry, if you won't notice, but I do. I have lots of... Sorry, I'm trying to fix mine. Oh, fix my seat. Oh, that's better. Alright, so I have multicolored lights which sit in here throughout the year, and which I have extra ones outside, which are not Christmas lights. They're not Christmas lights because they turn on in September and they don't go off till March. They're entirely about providing light for the path by the office. They might be multicolored, they might twinkle a little bit, but they're not Christmas lights. They're all about illumination of path. Anyway, and they might also wind up my neighbours, but we'll leave that to one side. But I also have lights in here which do the same thing because just because I can and because it makes it look nicer. And they weren't turned on. So, yeah, turn them on. Cody85. If World War II hadn't happened, which of the IJN carriers would have had the best careers? Well, if they just had their peacetime career, probably... Akagi. Honestly, she would have had the longest career, probably. Because I can't imagine how long the Japanese economy would keep going supporting another fleet. How many roads would you need on generator bicycles to run a radar on that the trimaran? Don't even try. Just go for spy ship. Stone Age log canoes? As long as it's not stone canoes, we're okay. Artillery experiment. Stereoscopic or coincidence rangefinders? Right, so... Here's the thing, if you want to do very precise long-range fire, you want stereoscopic. If you want to find your target as quickly as possible, and you want the coincidence, because the coincidence will have a far faster engagement speed. Stereoscopic will give you more accuracy, but take longer to confirm the ranges. So ideally, actually, if you were a smart nation, what you do is you'd have both. You'd have your coincidence rangefinder to provide you with rough and ready information, and to provide you a rough area of where the target is, and then use your stereoscopic to focus it in. But no one really did that. No one really did that. They just went with lots and lots of them. Thank you. Versus from Pink Floyd's Comforting On. What would be the Nelson class version of the L3 and K3 look like? Well, if you took the Nelson, you see, look, if we start with the Royal Navy's battlecruiser designs, no, that's the wrong one. If we look at the quickly designs, I'm trying to find my copies of my copies of those drawings. Come on. Computer, work for me for just a little bit. No, it's not going to be that one. Although that's got a very cool picture of one. But no. Oh, my own video is one of the things which comes up as a search item now when the computer expands the search. That's lovely, but not really what I wanted to. No, I didn't want that. I didn't want that. Yes, that's what I wanted. Warship projects. Well, that'll do. If I can't find my own savings of them, I will just go and nick Warship Projects ones. Because Warships Projects is a great website. Thank you very much. About the people involved, frankly, they deserve an absolute massive thank you. And Zoltan is probably my hero. Okay, so the question was K3. What was if instead of the G3s they were going for L3 and K3? Well, the problem is if you're going for the L3 option, and I've got that drawing along here somewhere. That's L2. That's L3. So, if I add... No, that's not the image I want. I want... Browse... Desktop... L3. Yep. Browse... Desktop, find it. Okay, free. One. The good thing is, the really good thing is, none of you can see the faces I'm pulling. You can see the faces I'm pulling, but you can't see what I'm pulling my faces at. And there you go. So, If we consider those are the options, yeah. Well, if you're starting off from a K3 and an L3, first thing you've got to realise is they're starting off with 18-inch guns. So, if you're starting off with an L3 with 18-inch guns, they're supposed to be 51,000 and 52,000 tons. The L3 being 51,100 tons, the K3 being 52,000 tons. Oh my lord, that has a lot of armor, the K3. I mean, seriously, that thing's cool. The L3 is a very interesting, very interesting ship. The L3 basically is solid metal. I mean, seriously, in a world where that's built, someone wrote the other day, in a world where the N3's built, an Iowa class is a battle cruiser, and yet they probably are, considering that thing's level subdivision. Oh my lord, those rooms are small. Okay. So we've got an L3 and a K3. I've got them expanded up full screen. And again, Warships projects, if you go to that site, you will find all sorts of details about them. And these have both been drawn by Magic Chokniki. Good ship designs. 16 6-inch guns in 8 twin turrets. 6 4.5-inch guns, I'd reckon, or 4.7-inch. 4.7s probably. I'm going to go for 4.7s because that probably fits more of 120s. Possibly. Yeah, 4.7-inch. In singles for AA, 4 multiple barrel pom-poms, 2 massive torpedo tubes, and top speed of 25 knots for the battleship, and the battlecruiser can do 30 knots. They have exactly the same armament, which is always nice to have. Both have 4 shafts, 1 rudder formation. But the battleship has 70,000 shaft horsepower to get to 25 knots. The battlecruiser has 144,000 shaft horsepower to get it to 30 knots. So let's consider, in a world where those are your base points, well, you're probably looking at going with the battleship form. And again, they've shrunk it down quite dramatically. If you do build that in that sort of form, if you're using the L3 as your growth basis for your design, and let's see, that should allow me to expand it out. Yay, yes. So if you're using this as the basis of your design, and it's a very cool design, if you can use this as the basis of design, what are you going to mark down? Because this is a 51,000 ton ship, so you're going to have to cut off 16,000 tons to turn it into something which you can use as your battleship, if Washington is the same thing. But if you're using this is the basic design, probably not using that, probably not. So let's say if I'm using this as the base of my design, then in a nicer way, Washington has said that I've got a standard limit of at least 40,000 tons, because I can produce a version of this design. If I'm still at 18-inch guns, then I have an interesting scenario in my hands. It might be better to go with the L2. Because if I want to use 18-inch guns, if I look at the L2, likely limitations, Because if I go with the L2, what I can immediately do is cut to cut weight. Is I can delete. No, I might leave the side batteries exactly as they are, the secondaries, because you can see the 4.7s over the 6-inch guns. But I can delete one of the turrets aft, so I can go over a noun formation, and that's going to save me some tons. And if I'm going down to, and that's a 28 knot ship, right? So if I take that's at 70,000 shaft horsepower, is that 28 knots? I think it says 28 knots. Let me just check. Let me zoom in. No, it's 25 knots still. So I was wrong on that one. I wouldn't want to go lower than 25 knots. Delete X turret, leave Y alone, because honestly, that's going to save me weight if it's lower in the ship. It's going to have a lower metacentric height. I know what the Littorios do, but that's also to do with the fact they have the aircraft back, where they're outstoring their aircraft. And I might well take some 6-inch guns off there. If I take a pair of 6-inch guns off there, then I'm not really affecting myself much in terms of their forward or aft firing power. I am just giving myself something slightly stronger to, I'm weakening my broadside bit, but let's be honest, 2 6-inch, when I've got 6 18-inch, it's not going to make much of a difference. And those two things could bring me down quite a bit of weight. And I need, in a world where I'm doing this, I've got a world where I've got at least 40,000 tons in standard, so normal displacement probably already equates off take about 5,000 tons. Of that down to 47, so I've now got to drop 7,000 tons. If I'm taking off a turret, if I'm taking off some 6-inch guns, then I might well have done that. I'm going to have to watch out for... I'm going to also be able to really cut the armour down. I might want to keep the length. That would probably be sensible to keep the length. So yeah, it's an interesting option. Hope that answers the questions. But yeah, if you're building from those, you've got a very different agreement than you did historically. Steve Richards, Drac answered this earlier. What's your favourite pre-war cruiser? Which war? That's the first question that comes up. When you say pre-war cruiser, which war? Pre-World War One? Pre-World War Two? Russo-Japanese War? Pre-Falklands War? There are some cruisers wandering around then, still? Pre-Korean War? Which war? I'm being pedantic a bit, but there is it's this thing in the historian in me. It's always fun when people say pre-war and I go, which war? It gives me a bit of fun in life. I do apologise, but it does give me a bit of fun. Drew Matchon, replace the 6-inch gun to 4.7. You could replace the 6-inch. What you could do is go for a universal 5-inch battery. You could replace the 6-inch guns, and you could go for a universal 5-inch battery, which honestly, or rather a 5.5-inch battery, which is what they were considering doing on Hood. So you could go, right, and if I replace the 6-inch guns with 5.5s, and I replace the 4.7s with 5.5s, I can put in 5 twins on either side, 5 twin turrets on either side. 3 low, 2 high. And that gives me a boost for both rolls, really. Because it gives me 20 AA guns instead of 6. And it gives me 20 surface defense guns instead of 16. They're not as good, in the roles as the others are, but they are good enough. And that scenario, you end up with a Dido armed with 5.5-inch guns, probably, though. Marvelous. Next comment video. Yes, I post one Russian thought missing pre-treaty point. Post Washington, we are equal numbers. My G3 is superior to Lexington. Pre-treaty, though, my Lexington isn't fighting you alone. Well, that was the point I was trying to make. The British were designing the G3s to be operating alone, so they were going to be operating on a different scenario. Whereas Lexingtons were designed to be reconnaissance for the battle fleet. So, in other words, if you're fighting a Lexington, it's not going to be long before the rest of the big American sledgehammer turns up and starts pummeling you. If you're fighting a G3, it's on its own. There's a difference in what you're building the ship for, and a difference in the cost you're prepared to pay for that ship. Jim Bencher, do you know about the concrete canoe that floated? There have been several concrete canoes. Lots of people tried building vessels out of concrete over the years. How about last one? If the Graf Zeppelin is, I think you mean completed rather than built, and an APS Sabre 7 was ready in 1959 with 3-speed 2-stage supercharger, what kind of aircraft could be the RM produced if the RM gets first? If the RM gets first pick, then A, you'd have an APS Sabre armed, powered Fairy Barracuda, and you would probably have either a Seafire from Supermarine or a Firebrand are ready to go. Polaris, do you see any radical new warship construction designs coming up in the future, possibly building on the modular fitting out of the different hull types? I see lots of people looking at the idea. I don't see anyone actually delivering on it. I don't know, what happens if the USN makes a central directed fire control table for their sovereign types? Woohoo! They might actually hit something. Come see, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen Swallow? I could be wrong, but isn't a Swallow the only bird which was found to be able to, in effect, almost achieve disturbingly fast flight for a bird its size? I'm trying to remember the exact figure of it. Okay, if I have no oil liquid turning up, I'm going to have to drink more Iron Brew. Probably shouldn't, but there again, I am thirsty, and I need the energy to talk. And before anyone thinks, oh, go away, Alex, go do your hammer. No, I won't. It's a case of I'm in one of those scenarios where I am too wired after all the driving to actually go and rest, but I am also, this is why I'm not reading through books, etc. Too tired to exercise multiple parts of my brain. Oh, while I remember, SimSec is looking for members. That's the Centre for International Maritime Security. If anyone's interested, please do go join up. They are looking for members. They're trying to grow themselves again. I missed the super chat. I will do this button. Hello, Robert. Hello. What if the Courageous class were balanced 9.2-inch supercruisers? The Renowns were converted to carriers instead, with Nelson's going for battlecruiser design. Is there one better off a Model 2? The Renowns wouldn't be converted to air carriers. Instead, the Renowns would be left as battlecruisers. If the Courageous class were balanced 9.2-inch cruisers, you might see... the British wouldn't want to get rid of those. They would be very, very useful ships. So you'd probably see a heavy cruiser category actually added into the Washington Naval Treaty. And probably it would still be any vessels below 10,000 tons. You could build as many as you liked. But what they probably do is they probably settle in equal tonnage of capital ships as you get of heavy cruisers. As for carrier conversions, you're left with either two options. The Admirals, in terms of the hulls which are furthest along, which you're looking for Camel Laird's, which I know they were looking at anyway, and a couple of others. And when I say I know that, I know, as I've explained before, there are too many internal Royal Navy documents which refer to the Camel Laird's as the Royal Navy strike carrier experts, or the yard with the most expertise with the superior expertise in designing strike carriers. For my comfort in believing that they hadn't done any work before, and B, when this is being referred to when they're designing Ark Royal, they haven't theoretically built a carrier before Ark Royal. The only ship which could have been a conversion before that is the Admiral class hull they have on them. So, that's the likelihood. The other option is probably Lion and Tiger. They're the other options. You either go the Admirals, or you go Lion and Tiger as your conversions, if the Courageous class are heavy cruisers. Effect on World War II if you have that many heavy cruisers wandering around 9.2-inch guns? Well, in simple terms, Deutschland class seek to be in any way, shape or form a viable entity for actual operations. I mean, there's just... you wouldn't send them out. It just would not be a good idea. What's the other option that would happen? You'd change quite a lot of things. If you have that many heavy cruisers, and you have them from the Washington Naval Treaty, it's going to change a lot of the requirements, because your county class cruisers are going to immediately be your light cruisers. So the thing is, are you going to build a whole load of 8-inch cruisers? Or is Britain going to concentrate on building 6-inch cruisers from the get-go, as 9.2-inch gun cruisers are the heavy cruisers? So why do you want 8-inch cruisers, 9-inch cruisers, and 6-inch cruisers? You don't. So you probably, in a nice way, the 8-inch cruiser might cease to exist. How would a Tiger and Lion carrier conversion fare? Maybe interesting. HMS Tiger is 214 meters long overall. Lion. Well, Lion is 213.4 meters overall. Lion has a top speed of 27.5 knots. Tiger has, I suppose, has 28 knots. There is also Princess Royal as well. So it could be Lion and Princess Royal, if you want to go with the same ships. That's your conversions. Let's see, how much does it compare? They are roughly 20 meters. They are roughly 16 meters shorter than the Courageous class, but and slower than them. But, and he says this, if you added in small tube boilers as part of conversion, they would speed up quite dramatically. And they have a lot of space for that. They have a much wider beam, 27 to 24 meter, 24.7 meters, which gives them a lot more space on that front. And they have a deeper draft, which means they're going to be more stable as well, so you can build them up better. If we consider the Courageous class are roughly 240 meters to the roughly 214. In their carrier forms, she's 224 meters in between the perpendiculars and 239 meters overall. Yeah, I think they would actually fare quite well. If Tiger, or I think it would actually be Lion and Princess Royal, because remember Tiger's kept as a battlecruiser. So I think it'd be Lion and Princess Royal if you're going to convert existing ships. I still tempted to say it would be the Admirals, because they'd be the easiest to convert on the stocks. Honestly, it was only because the Courageous class already had small tube boilers. I think that BT won that argument for them over the Admirals, and because he didn't want to abandon them. So yeah. But how would they fare? Courageous and glorious. Basically, they're like that all over again. Slightly better built ships though for the role. The questions are showing now, and are working now. Lawrence, did you enjoy doing the Lexington class response video? It was an experience to do it again, and honestly I've got a few other videos coming up which are going to be a bit of experiences. I'm also recording a Tillman class response video, and that's got to come out this week, and that's going to be a big one. Frank Sparrow, do you think that the landings on Battlestar would have the same concerns about landing on left or right flight pods, just like landing on carriers, the island on each side? Potentially, but there again, I imagine they have a guiding system which enables them to help mount on. Jonas, why are Bismarck's gun axes so large? Because they're tremendously over-engineered. If the Dante, laid down in 1903, had... if the Dante Alighieri had been laid down in 1903, how would the Azog class would have looked like? I cannot imagine the Austrians leaving themselves behind, so I think, honestly, they would have probably jumped onto the bandwagon fairly quickly. I'm not sure how they would have, but I think they would have. I cannot imagine the Austrians leaving anything behind. I don't know. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Lion have a fairly better underwater connection of the Crazy class? Yes, they did, and you have more space in the hull to put more in. I think, would a Tiger class with two 6-inch guns have made sense to define evolution on a treaty cruiser? Not really. They should have had more guns, but, you know, life happens. Graham Hall, have you been plenty of supply of Andrew? Not really. This is going to sound terrible, but I did have bottled water as well for my travel lodge, etc. But my mum ran out, and she needed more. And by the time I'd sorted her out, I was in no mood to go driving off from the travel lodge to try and find any. And it was the trouble is the travel lodges we were staying in were not near places which had necessary access to other supplies. Pedro doesn't question. Go on. Is St. Pancreas the right station for Monopoly? It's quite a cool station if you've ever used it. But I do like one of the ones which is less used these days, but I actually do go for. I have actually gone through it for a few things, and it's quite a cool station. I forget which one it is. Is it Fenchurch Street? Ronan, what happens if the USN makes fire control table for the sovereign types? They get a lot more accurate, a lot more quickly. Answer that one. Oh, good lord. Now, which questions have I missed? Going through here to try and catch up questions. Did I know that? I've answered that one. Answer on. Okay. Biomass, if the 6-inch guns are removed from the design and mid-late construction of the Grouse Zeppelin, what could be put in its place, or is it using the weight, space settings? Honestly, if you're moving them, you are A, having a happy day, and B, probably going to do something like adding, like if you're removing those 6-inch guns, you're going to replace. You are either going to use the weight to add in more other guns elsewhere, especially 88mm, or you are going to potentially organize it yourself. You know, so organize it, to use it as space for things. Roll down. Odds Lion survive. Aircraft carrier HMS Lion survives encounter with U-29. Probably slightly better than the Courageous, but not that much greater. That's right. How many of the problems with the Nimrod MR4A would result of the past UK government's failure to upgrade the UK's aerospace sector to use modern construction methods which made each airframe identical? I would say each airframe was an absolute mess, and that was typical of earlier government decisions. I know we won't forget the Railroad Lantern. And honestly, if I'm being honest, the Railroad Lantern is actually currently being fixed up and looked at and greatly treated very, very nicely by a friend of mine who's actually down in Cornwall. It's been with him for a while, but it's basically a passion project he's doing whilst also helping to work on restoring the Helston Railway. So whenever he's not able to go and work on the railway, he's spending time working on the lantern and trying to turn it into keep it as intact as possible, so we have no changes are being made, but to try and put in some electric lighting for it. So I have been and seen it, but it's down in Helston at the moment. It's being well looked after. It's being very well looked after. It's currently sitting with his own collection, which he's got four similar ones himself from the Great Western Railway he's working on. So it's being worked on and it's being looked after. But yeah, it won't be forgotten. My I am thinking of my pancreas, but I need some liquid, okay? Tillman is going to be a big one, yes. What's your thoughts on speculation that Admiral Canaris may have been working with the Catholic and British intelligence to get anti-Nazis out of Germany later in the war? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Canaris was doing a lot of things, because his policy was always looking to the future. He wanted to preserve Germany. And he thought his fear was they'd lose the war and they'd break up Germany. And you have to think there were plans. The Free French especially had plans and suggestions for how to break up Germany. There were sections about, of course, Austria was going it, but there were ideas about giving some territories to Denmark and giving some territories to Netherlands and Poland, and basically there were plans at various points for Germany to be shrunk dramatically so it can never wage a war again. And maybe even breaking up into a very, very federated system whereby its central government would always be so weak it can never actually wage war effectively ever again. Unfortunately for everyone who was proposing that, Stalin kept getting very, very annoying, and so the Americans and Brits decided that frankly that wasn't worth their time. Drew Petron, do you know about the concrete canoe that floated? Yes. Do you know about the whole concrete harbour that floated? Because the Mulberry harbours were floated out and they were made of concrete. Let's put it this way, compared to a canoe, making an entire harbour float around, that's something. And I think if the rendezvous were designing the perfect interior for the battle cruisers to do perfect peacetime combat diplomacy operations, would the rendezvous go to the Empire's best architecture designers? They would go to the naval constructors, yes. The point, Knight 681, is the thing about it is that is nothing new for the Royal Navy to be designing for. Their constructors have been working on those ideas for years. One of the tricks that you often get built into ships, and this is a thing. Okay, if we're walking around a British capital ship that was fitted as a flagship. Now, sometimes, especially in the Victorian eras, if you go around. Warrior doesn't really have this, although any of the surviving ones have it. You might find it on Mikasa, but if you go down the specific corridors which are heading to the flag area, they are designed to have forced perspective to make them look longer and more imposing than they actually are. So if you're coming from the entry, whichever way you're coming from, they look longer. And that's one of the tricks you can build into a ship. And you build it into buildings as well, in how you shape the room. And especially the painting. Things which are supposed to be straight aren't quite straight, to sort of make them get a bit of forced perspective. But I'd say by the time we're talking about 1920s, that's not really something they're bothering with much. They usually use... Rather than that, is they're looking at spaces for things like guards to go. John Evans, how accurate are design sketches versus detailed design versus build? Okay, sketches are broad strokes, very broad strokes. Detailed design is that plus a lot of more detailed. And build will be closer to the detailed design than necessarily the sketches, but it will still have changes because at some point during the build something will have happened, which means you have to change it. Either someone wants to add something in, someone wants to take something out, or it'll be found that something put in a certain place interferes with something else in another place, which they didn't really realise until they put it in, and they have to change it back. Doc, can you recommend a book that has a list of which classes of World War II destroyers got to a delay due to equipment shortages? Oh, Norman Freeman tends to be quite obsessed with these things, and very good detail about it. So Freeman's British destroyers would probably be where I'd start. Okay, what is the weirdest material anyone has ever made successfully made a ship from? I'd argue plastic in some ways, but you know they've built warships of plastic. You know that's quite an interesting material. Animal hides is always a fun one, which some people are obsessed with trying to turn into coracles. Usually, I'm never quite sure how good they are. You know, basically, if there's something out there which looks vaguely waterproof, someone has tried to make a boat out of it at some point. Did you ride the TTC subway while in Toronto? Yes, I think we did. I do love the way the Q&A, I swear, some of the questions are just showing up now. Jonas, answer the one. Director note. Question. About the speculation theory that Canaris... Answer that one. Answer that one. Why they're actually so far apart. Dr. Steve Rochelle. What happens if you go H3 class? The really fast options and also slightly lighter than a lot of other designs. If we go with H3... H3... Da-da-dee-dee-dee... H3... H. Well, it depends which of the H3s you want to go with. There's a few options. There's A, B, C. I know where I'd go with. Frankly, I'd go with A. You can do a lot on the H3A hull. For those who don't know, the H3A hull is basically 6 guns forward in 2 triple turrets. So basically, think of it like an 18-inch version of the Dunkirks, but a lot bigger and capable of 33.5 knots with 180,000 shaft horsepower. Basically, that's the Royal Navy going, how fast could we make one of these things? Let's put it this way. In a world where the H3A exists, the Scharnhorst do not. Not in the form they were. Because there is no way you are getting a Scharnhorst away from that. But if you consider it, the G3 goes up 3 guns and yeah, they're 16.5-inch guns, but they also go up a rate of fire. And they don't lose that much speed. They have 33, G3's 33 knots. The H3A is 33.5 knots, so the G3 only drops half a knot. Did they make any test ships out of the Pykrete? I think they did do some things out of the Pykrete. Not sure if they made a ship. Might have just been a floating raft. What would a Lexington class with a 12-inch instead of 16-inch and better armor make more logical sense? Not really. Not really. Because you see 16-inch is the capital ship gunnage. This is the point I have to make about the Alaskas. So, if you consider when the Alaskas were built, 12-inch was not really the weapon of choice for navies in terms of fitting capital ships. They were fitting far bigger guns on them if they had the choice. If you're fitting 12-inch in the time of Lexington to a ship, you are basically admitting it's going to have a short half-life of service. So if the Russians did get rid of the Kirovs and the Admiral Kuznetsov, what does that say to the other countries of the world? It says they've given up because they can't replace them. So they're kind of in a catch-22. They have to keep these ships going. But keeping them going is also a bit of an embarrassment because it shows they can't replace them. So the thing is, having them is better than not having anything. But having them also shows their own weakness in not being able to replace them. If there are no naval treaties, what would be the upper limit for large cruiser designs in terms of cost-to-benefit ratio? Caliber, number of guns, displacement, roughly 25,000 tons and 12-inch guns. Why is the second Admiral Kuznetsov class carrier 2.7 inches longer, 7 feet 10 inches wider and 500 tons heavier as standard, and 1,300,000 tons at full load and sister? Well, honestly, the fatter one I'm not quite sure. The 2.7 inches, that's just margin of error when you're dealing with a vessel that size. That's why people start to sometimes comment, oh, HMS Prince of Wales is the largest ship in the Royal Navy. Why? Because we think she's about an inch or so bit longer than HMS Queen Elizabeth. Okay. But basically they tried to put in more and tried to change, improve their design. Thank you, Stafford. And yeah. Actually, I will add something else on Lamp, Stafford. There is a chance that when it's done, and my friend has talked about this, when it's done, when they run the inaugural Christmas train with a Santa Claus on the Helston Railway, he might see if they want to use the Canadian lamp for it. They probably won't, but he might borrow it for that, in which case I will send you a photo of it being used, if it's used. It might not be, but it just seemed cool to me to sort of think if they were doing a Christmas train to have a Canadian lamp on there along with a GWR one, just seemed cool for a Christmas one. But no, they are trying to get the railway built up and working at Helston. Goodness knows if they'll manage to work on it. My plan is to well, it's one of those things. It's that railway is a fun one, which if it works will be a good one. Okay, I'm fairly sure. Sorry, I've just had a note come through going, this might be spam. Ow, that did well. So, how many of you think that it might be possible that I actually get to 15,000 subscribers by Christmas Day? Speaking of, I'd have to put on roughly 200 every day between now and then to make it happen. Anyone think it'd be possible? I say this as someone for whom the bet this year is 15,000 subscribers, and I'd really like to bet over. And no, I am not paying for subscription bots to try and win it. What about the RN opting for a tree design type work within working to 35-40 ton limit? They have good firepower and excellent speed and a lot of room. Well, yeah, the H3 could actually be, it's all forward main armament, could be worked into something quite decent, but, you know, it's unlikely once the RN realises very quickly they want 9 guns, not 6 guns. Their view is you need at least 8. They love the Renowns, but they feel the Renowns are very lightly armoured. This is why I have the opinion I have when me and Drac are discussing the whole what was HMS Agincourt of the Queen Elizabeth class going to be, and why I lead down on the 18-inch guns and he leads down on he sometimes leans on the triple turrets, and he thinks triple turrets were what it was going for. My view is always if there were it was a triple 15-inch turret design around when Renown or Repulse were being built, they would have got the triple turret design. They would have modified what's on the twin turrets to the triple turrets, so they'd have built the triple turrets. They could have built them quickly enough to get them into service for the Renowns. They really could have done. Especially as they'd have been pretty much the only turrets they were building at the time. So they could have done that. And the Royal Navy would have loved that, because the Royal Navy did not think 6 15-inch guns were enough even when they were building them. They thought it would just about do for a battle cruiser. If they'd had their way, 8, 9 would have been the minimum guns. Yeah, and paying for bodies surprisingly is surprisingly expensive. And yes, I would, because Melanie, you are far too kind. And no one needs to pay for it. I'll have to drag for help. I think I probably will do. But going on, do you think the US should have used the resources of the Alaska class to finish the Kentucky and Illinois? I think that might have been more useful to them than actually doing the Alaskas in the end. I can understand why they did the Alaskas. The Alaskas would have been very useful if they'd come earlier in the war. I mean, seriously, you can imagine Guadalcanal if you'd had an Alaska-type vessel there. It could have been a lot easier. But I think later on they should have been focused on that. So my sister and her boyfriend are doing their best to make everyone uncomfortable. In my experience, sisters and boyfriends tend to do that. But there again, as someone who was possibly someone's boyfriend, has been someone's boyfriend on a couple of occasions, usually we're not doing it on purpose. There again, not really. I have to say, my public displays of affection, I tend to be mostly around the hugging variety than anything else. Which, yeah. How do you make Admiral Kuznetsov class aircraft carriers actually viable? Well, this is going to sound strange. To make the Kuznetsov class actually viable, you'd have to go back right to the beginning of the design stages, and you'd have to go, right then, we're designing a class which is going to be in service for about 50 years, 60 years, something like that, and design everything with that in light of it. Honestly, going nuclear powered might be a sensible thing, because considering the Russians' maintenance of the reactor systems, and if you could put in the same reactors you have in the Kirovs, that would have made your life a little bit easier. It also mean their fuel requirements would be so much, and you could go for probably some form of cannibal system actually to make their lives easier. But really, they need to be They either need to be smaller so they can fit into more of the yards, or they need to be bigger so they can do more of their own maintenance. That's right. Given the two Admiral Kuznetsov was so different, what are the odds of the two learning us? Would have been the same. Honestly, the Soviet Union has a similar issue to France does. You try and build the ships exactly the same in them. If Russia was selling to India, Patriots post call what? Sold more Kuznetsov and all the Kira class. How bad officers in the Navy? What does China build in response? Well, if they've got all the Kievs, so they've got all 4 of those. And they got all the Kuznetsovs. So let's say they got 2 of those. Then they've got 6 aircraft carriers. And considering the amount of work the Indians have put in to their vessels, to the Admiral Gorshkov, aka Baikal, aka Vikramaditya, I would say they probably have fairly good ships in service. And it would also mean that India would have 6 aircraft carriers. And India with 6 aircraft carriers probably means it has 3 constantly active in the Indian Ocean. It would also mean it would be the 2nd largest carrier operating navy in the world after the Americans, because they'd have 6, and that would basically mean that they could do what they liked. I'm fairly sure Pakistan would be very, very worried about their sea border. They'd probably be buying submarines in bulk from China right about now. So I've given up the Q&A. Is it still not letting you in, Steve? Because it seems to let everyone else in, but it's not letting you in. Melanie, if it's not showing up on the screen as I scroll through it, it's not come through. I have no idea. So maybe try refreshing your screens and make sure you're putting it into the right one. Because I had to refresh my screen about 3 times to get it to work. Interesting. Sorry, it's while live, I've literally just received an email going, guide for how to get sponsorships. Should probably look into that, considering I could be helping to fund their house move at the beginning of next year. Oh. Seriously? That's gonna be expensive. That is going to be expensive. Oh, frick it. Oh, I do like the idea of living in Cornwall because we've got so much family down there. It'll be easier in many, many regards. It's gonna make it more annoying for coming to do archive research. It'll, make going the queue far more difficult to get to. Conversely, it actually might make getting up to the northwest and northeast of England a lot easier, because instead of me having to go through London or around the M25, I can avoid it and just go up the West Country, which would be fun. I don't think I'll be doing it by train. I haven't looked at the train routes, but yeah, it'll be fun. And it could make our trips of ship shape more interesting, because I will probably what I will do, because international flights from London are much easier to get than Exeter, I will probably end up getting the train up to Heathrow or Gatwick, staying overnight and then getting on the plane the next day. If India had that many carriers, there'd be quite a lot of more countries. If India had that many carriers, there would be a lot of very, very no longer arguing with India countries around. Hey, Melanie, a question showed up from you. How might the Italians have responded to the Alsace class and the H-29 class? They might have to respond. Let's just remember, unlike Germany, Italy actually has a functioning maritime infrastructure and industry. Not a massive one, but it is functioning. They have built the Littorios. So honestly, and if you consider the time frame where the Italians build the Littorios versus the Germans building the Scharnhorst and all the other things. And then look at what the Italians are building. They're building a balanced fleet. They're also reconditioning their existing battleships. There are some really skillful things. What next generation, the next class after the Littorios would be, are really interesting. In fact, if I was actually having a discussion with someone recently who is looking at what would be the successor to them, because they're building Littorio, Vittorio Veneto, Roma, and Impero. What would their next 4 battleships be? What would the next class of battleships be? And that's a really interesting thing to look into. The Italians do have ideas, and they have plans, and they have discussions what their next 4 would be. And there's actually more of a chance of those next 4 getting built than the H-39. If there's more time between war. I think the biggest problem for the British, if World War II holds off till 1942, is not the Japanese, it's not the Germans. The British construction will outpace both of those quite easily. And the British will be ready. The biggest problem for the Royal Navy is the longer war holds off, the more Italian battleships are going to get into service. Nathan, how do you make Admiral Kuznetsov class aircraft carriers actually viable? I think I answered that one earlier. Go back to the beginning and redesign them. If there were a G3 conversion, how big planes could get on it? Given increased ship size in treaties, could you get Mosquito-type planes regularly by the 1940s on the Essex equivalents? Look. You're talking more Lexington class equivalents than Essex class equivalents. B, yes, you could, and I think you probably would, but I'd say it'd be more likely with Admiral class conversions than G3s. And C, you've got to get the Royal Navy to go for the twin engine, and with the Air Ministry involved. And you have to remember the Air Ministry were very reluctant about the Royal Navy getting twin-engined aircraft, because for them that meant the Royal Navy was getting into the bomber procedure and was starting to be a direct threat to their bomber force. So yeah, there are issues with that. And the I'd said, don't forget the 6.5, 7.5, 8-inch, 8F9 and 9.5-inch gunners, just to make the supply clerks check themselves into a mental ward. Yeah, if the Royal Navy's got 9.2-inch gunned heavy cruisers as a separate part of the Washington Naval Treaty, then they might well start. The 7.5-inch wasn't that successful in the Hawkins. I think they probably end up with a 6-inch cruiser, maybe 7-inch cruisers. What effect would it have on the air in later wars if the Great Lakes were only one large lake? Say if Michigan and Southwest Ontario. If it's only one, if all that water is instead connecting to one large lake, it would have made the wars more joined up, but it would also have potentially. Let's put it this way. The larger the lake becomes, the more and more sea-like the qualities get, and the more you're likely to have battles taking place in the middle with no relation to what's going on land. Right, friend. Bristol and Birmingham are excellent airports for lots of flights and relatively cheap. Don't have to go all the way to Heathrow, not a question, just some nice. Yeah, but the advantage with going to Heathrow is that's where the rest of the team will be going from. So, yeah. But I will say this, that my good friend, Drake NFL, absolutely loathes Heathrow. Absolutely loathes Heathrow. There again... Since he discovered Toronto Pearson, Heathrow is no longer his least favourite airport in the world. And in fact, if you say the words Toronto Pearson to any of my shipshape colleagues, they visibly shudder. It is a brilliant thing. When you meet them, test it out. Just go up behind them quietly while they're talking to someone and just whisper in their ear, Toronto Pearson. And just watch them go, it's fun to do. Sid Clarke, refitting engines. We have seen how much a pain the fix was on Type 45. If you're refitting the entire power plant, how much would you have to remove from Cassetta? The everything. Everything. And I would like to point out that I think there is someone. Gatwick is an interesting airport as well, Manly. It's slightly better. So, Eric Brown managed to get a mosquito down off a carrier. Yes, he did. And frankly, they could have done earlier, but it's getting the time and getting the Air Ministry support. Why does Soviets go with such undersized reactors on the Kirov class? Honestly, because they didn't think they were. They thought they would be enough. And then it's only afterwards they realised they weren't. But also, they were starting from a base of trying to put submarine reactors in there, and then they worked out that wasn't a sensible idea. That you need a very different reactor for a surface ship than you do for a submarine. I think it's Pancreas. No, sorry, not sure this area. Would the force have been enough to push the British into building something akin to the British aerospace? Small, I'm going to adapt to this thing so I can actually read it. Let's see if this small, agile battlefield aircraft. Probably not, as they didn't historically. Which one? Given that Drac has been through LAX and JFK and thinks they're fine, Daddy hates UOZ or something. When you get to Japan, go to Haneda, by the way. Antidote to Pearson. We're looking at flights into Japan, and the guy and the crew is basically going, "How are we doing this?" I think probably we're going to do the connection through Singapore. Correction through Singapore. Ooh. Hey, good news! Found a chocolate on the floor. I don't think the Sea Ferguson would have been better with wingtip tanks. As for the engines, I see it as more as half a dozen and 160 the other because of the rearrangements you have to do design to the airframe to accommodate a different engine. Maximus, the Pearson Airport, the universal hatred of it, unites us all. Yes, it is a worldwide unite. I didn't realise that that was Canada's sneaking plan. Produce an airport so terrible, so horrendous, that it unites the entire world in hatred. I mean, as reasons for unification, I can think of worse ones than to get rid of Toronto Pearson. There are many, many fine airports in the world. Toronto Pearson is not one of them. Oh. Shorts. What's the short? Is there a short for tomorrow scheduled? It should be, for the 4th of December. Oh goody, the short tomorrow is HMS, is not HMS Formidable, it's Formidable, the Friendship. Oh good lord, oh yes, I'm doing a hotel. Oh, I've got to re-record that, haven't I? Because I decided to redesign the plan. Okay, yes. Alright. Oh, yep. See, I had all these bright ideas about, I will do that when I am... How do I put this? You know, when I get home. I'll do that when I get home, and then it's a 2-hour journey turns into 5.5 hours journey, and it's case of, oh frigate, I haven't done that. Ah, that's gonna be fun. So I'm typing my questions into Cord so I can copy paste them when they don't arrive. Thank you. Karen, I found Toronto Airport okay when I flew through it, but I'm used to Glasgow Airport. I have flown through Glasgow Airport a couple of times. Honestly, Glasgow is fine. Toronto Pearson International Section since... I don't know, since COVID has just gone... downhill tremendously. See, Clarke, Catamaran aircraft carrier designs. How practical would it be? It's a nice idea in theory because it gives you a nice wide deck, but in practice, it's going to create more motion at the top, which is going to make it more interesting to land. Because if you think about it, if the wider a ship is, the more this introduces variance. The wider it is, the bigger the variance between the height of this and the height of that, the height of the other end. So yeah, so that's that. Oh, hello. I'm doing all sorts of weird hand gestures with you, aren't I? Yes, I can do all sorts of things to wind you up. Oi. Gonna do it with this hand. Now I need the other hand involved. So if I do sort of that, and it's doing that, then that's a problem. Why do we hear so little about the Royal Regiment Marine and Imperial Japanese Navy armed merchant cruisers? Because they don't really get to do as much as they would have liked to have done. The Regiment Marine ones try quite well, but a lot of them get sunk by U-class submarines of the Royal Navy. And as for the IJN's ones, they have a nasty habit when they are out of bumping into other people's full cruisers. Nice one. How would other naval powers have responded to Vanguard? Depends if she has sisters. Because if you consider basically the Americans are the Iowas, so they're not going to worry about Vanguard. The French have Rickaloo, so they're not worried about Vanguard. The Italians aren't allowed a battleship, pretty much. They can have one for a while. And the Soviets, well, they have the Gilles Cesare, and that's it for a while. Basically, yeah, no one really worries much if you're just an allied ship. Security P. If the USN had the time, resources, and inclination, could the standard class of battleships be modernized to serve as fast carrier exports? Potentially, but that's going to be very expensive. I have answered those, so I will do that so I know I've answered them. Very expensive. Have I ordered something for myself to eat? No. It's going back to all the questions. It's slowly putting in all the questions, isn't it? That's a good way of checking if I've missed any questions by having to redo them all. As you mentioned, how would having a long lance torpedo on a Royal Navy destroyer change tactics during the Mediterranean engagements? It would make the night attacks even more interesting because the Royal Navy would probably fire the torpedoes and then charge in after them with their guns. Just slightly longer range. So possibly what you might have is they might launch their long-range torpedoes, reload with torpedoes set for higher speed to fire at shorter range, and fire those torpedoes as they're going in as well. That's probably what the British do. Omega Hannibal, would you prefer 12 15-inch guns or 8 16.5-inch guns on a 41,000-ton battleship, standard displacement, and all the guns are 50 caliber long? Okay. I'm going to go to 16.5-inch. Why? Because 50 calibers long, they're probably going to give you a slightly longer range than the 15-inch. And they're going to give you slightly heavier hitting power. But the 12-15 is a very attractive target. Man, I like the 15-inch. Carry on. So, trim on hull flat top only if you wanted to really upset your pilots. And if the British got the 03 Nelson class with 16.5-inch guns, would the British have tried to make a better 16.5-inch guns for the Lions? If the British had not, if they hadn't set this, if they set the limitation at 16.5-inch guns rather than 16-inch guns, then yes, the Lions would have been 16.5-inch guns. And honestly, there is part of me which wonders, if you got the 16.5-inch guns, the British have a working design, have a working triple turret from the G3s. So that's giving them the basis. And the interesting thing about the G3 turret is there is a discursive point and discussion about how much that was used as a basis for the Nelson class. And originally that was supposed to be quite a high-angle gun. As original, it took 30 minutes to fill out the forms. If it takes 30 minutes to fill out the forms going into Japanese airports, then I had better make sure I arrive a day before DRAC. Because I have to be waiting the other side of that airport for him to come out with a camera to see his face after he's filled in all the forms. I know that's evil of me, I do realise. But come on, it'll be funny! But no, I have been toying with the idea of a 16.5-inch nail rod and how exactly it would work itself out, and it's quite an interesting profile and firepower differential. Even if you go with 45 caliber, 16.5-inch, they get some really interesting hits. Everyone, they do offer to let you fill out forms online a few days before. Just make sure you print them out. Oh, I will do. Japanese Airlines and BA. I'm considering it's either we go direct with Japanese Airlines, I think, or we may do the whole Singapore Airlines hub and spoke routine. It's going to see how much the cost differential is. Hi, Tim and Neil. And yeah, hello everyone. I'm not sure if I said hello today. I've been a bit remiss. Oh, today's been fun. Today has been fun. But I have run out of iron brew already. So, although I will admit I was starting with a reduced bottle. And I was hoping to have milk here as well, but the milk hasn't arrived yet. And I say that there's no critique to the person who's supposed to be delivering the milk. Basically, the thing was I did all the lifting in the bag, sorting out things, and then they were going to wait for delivery and bring it down to me. But it started pouring with rain, and they just don't want to feel like it, because they were also driving a car today. Because we took 2 cars down with us, and we brought 2 cars back. For 3 people, 2 dogs, and all the stuff they needed for a month down there. Well, house hunting. And working from down there, so both me and my sister had our full PC setups down there, and desks. I will say, I will be actually posting at the end of Christmas, at the end of the 60-second shorts, a review of the portable desk, because it was actually a really good portable desk. Although, I do think it's a bit, from the acoustic side of view, it's not as good as the wooden desk I've got here. Richards, I'm not sure about that being the thing of Singapore Airlines, but I have to say that Singapore, in my experience, have been very, very nice to me. They've always been good flight attendants and good crew, who've always been very kind. And, yeah, they've just been a lot of fun to fly with. And the food's always good on Singapore Airlines. This is the thing. Singapore Airlines provides good quality food. And the loos are okay, and you know you can get. For Australia, I did economy premium the whole way, or premium economy, whatever it's called, and frankly, that was a fine way to fly. They have many. Most of the airlines have many claims to fame. I always find it interesting that they produced 4 guns for the 16-inch Mark II. And you think about it, if they'd carried on, they could have probably built up a full set of them and maybe have given Vanguard 8 16-inch guns. That'd been interesting. Vanguard armed with 16-inch Mark II. That could fire a 1,077 kilogram, that's a 2,375 pound shell. But a good example I always think is when you're looking at the Nelson and Rodney class. The Royal Navy builds 29 guns, 29 barrels to keep the ships in service, when they require 18. So if you think about that, the Royal Navy have got theoretically 3 complete sets of barrels for those ships. They require 18, they've got 29. And they've got 2 more over that. And that gives you an idea of what sort of level of refit and maintenance has to go on into the guns to keep them viable. Why do trimaran flat top upset the pilots? It's the sheer amount of space movement. So if you think about it, when you've got a catamaran, you've got a single hull, that's that. A cat is like that. A trimaran's like that. In terms of this, and so when whilst they are often quite stable, if they are in the big oceanic waves and they start going that, well, that's a big differential, whereas that's not as big a differential for landing on. So you've got the advantages, disadvantages of having 2 islands, as per Windows class, on your carrier versus the traditional one, have been examined. But in Engine 1 electronics, do islands need to be that tall? Yes. the reason they need to be that tall is whilst modern electronics are great, for the amount of cost, the level of insurance and assurance the height of an island gives you is worth it. Compared to the overall project, the level of cost it gives you in terms of being able to see over your bow, in terms of being able to watch your entire flight deck, etc., it's worth it. Let's mention Thin Air were the best flying in Tokyo. Each barrel's good for, well, 3 complete magazine discharges was normal as phrase, so it's roughly 750 to 800 shots. But, as Melanie 64 has pointed out, there are many variables. Full charge, reduced charge. Some of the new powders were also able to give many times the barrel life, even firing at full charge because of the way they affected the barrels. Some actually cause even more damage to the older powders. So the answer usually is how long is a piece of string, and you watch it. Not during every fight, but after every fight you swab the barrel down and you have a look at it carefully. Would the Tiger class helicopter cruisers have worked if the hulls were larger instead of being redesigned by 1943 Manitou class light cruisers? Slightly better, would have probably helped them a lot. They needed space. They did. Was Vulcan a bad idea for maritime patrol aircraft? Yes. My dad was actually a navigator on Vulcans when he did his national service sort of thing. And he would tell you the Vulcan was not designed for oceanic overflight at low altitudes or maritime patrol sort of routines. It used a lot of fuel. It was a very fuel-hungry beast. It was designed for high-speed runs on the Soviet Union. Okay, something keeps singing at me. I'm not sure what is singing at me, something is singing at me. I don't think I'll be going on that late tonight, considering I keep yawning, so I don't want to yawn too much for all of you, but, yeah. Basically, probably another half hour. Yes, originally high-speed, high-altitude runs, but later on, low-altitude, high-speed runs. Have very small space, you can say that again. And as I've run out of iron brew, I have run out of liquid and everything else I need to keep going. Turkey hat's calling out to me. Doesn't sound like it's a turkey hat. Sounds like it's something else making a noise, but I'm not sure what it is. Something is making a noise though. Seeing it's my phone. No. Something in that direction. Could be the... I've got one of those there and one of those up there, so it could be both of those are cooking, because I've got the heater on. Could be adjusting to the warmth. Grandma, on the subject of Vulcans and what you said, Rio Father, if Vanguard had still been around, would it have been necessary for the RAF to pay a visit? I'm not sure. If Vanguard had still been around in the Falklands War, I don't think you would have had a functioning Stanley airfield for very long. Because some 15-inch shells raining down on that, which you could, I think, let me just see. Well, Stanley Airfield, it's roughly, is roughly 60 miles away by road, so if we consider the range of HMS Vanguard's guns, let's see, how far away would she be able to fire from? How long would she have had to go sail out for? Now, Vanguard could, at 30 degrees, hit targets roughly 34 kilometers away. If she can do 34 kilometers, then she only needs to travel 2/3 of the way in the direction of Stanley. Now, admittedly, that's not quite right for her, but basically the point is, she could probably position herself somewhere off the Armentine Beach or Cape Frail, that sort of area, and blast away quite happily, hitting Stanley Airfield and taking it out. And let's be honest, if you've got her in San Carlos Bay, no one is going to be attacking anywhere within 30 kilometers of San Carlos Bay, because she'll be able to wipe them out. So that does change your defensive requirements. Quite a chunk. Quite a chunk. I like to call it quits on 945 GMT. I probably will do. The free range Fluffy Research Assistant. Both of them are quite tired at the moment. They have been pedaling a long way. As you know, Fluffy Research Assistants are the real horsepower of any car while it's driving along. And both of them were in the car with my mum and sister, while I was driving solo, driving the car which had all the luggage in it. So yeah, that was fun. They had some issues, so I was dealing with those issues, and I kept having to sort of do other things because they kept having problems that needed me to either stop or turn around and go back to them. So I'd just be making progress, and then I'd be going, no, I have to go back. Driving convoy's fun. Yeah, every time, Commodore, they filled the holes, Commodore Clarke would fill them up again. Pretty much. Yeah, I am. It's one of those strange things. Thanks to I'm a functioning insomniac, but I can still get tired. It's just it takes a lot to tire me out, and it's kind of strange. It's also weird when I do feel tired, because case of like that, it's sort of case of I don't normally feel this way. Okay. The Unruh class carriers of the IGN. Did they require the use of larger dockyards like the Yamato class, or were they able to be built in other yards as well? They needed larger yards, but they had a good. They could theoretically be built in some of the cruiser yards, but there was a limitation of facilities available in those cruiser yards. Kenneth McLeod. Hang on, a question I've always wanted to ask. Before Vanguard was built, how much work would have been to use those guns and turrets to refit a Tiger to make a full 15-inch battlecruiser? A lot of them. I've often talked about how she could have refitted with 14-inch guns from the King George V design build, because she's 13.5-inch, so that's not really that much of a problem. And everything's pretty much designed. It can easily be adapted, or is actually able to take a 14-inch gun. But for a 15-inch gun, you have to rebuild everything, including the turret rings, all the magazine spaces, and all the turret spaces. So yeah, 15-inch probably not possible. 14-inch viable. Going on, Sunny Airport ceasing to exist one thing, but Mount Tumbledown on the UK just a lot less. I think there would have been a lot of scenarios where we are facing and suddenly have a battle. Good. Where's the target? Here. Okay, we'll provide fire support before you go in. Fire support arrives. We've turned up. They'd all like to know why exactly we bought the Wrath of God. The only problem would be how quickly can they resupply Vanguard shells, and are they going to have enough ships to take them into San Carlos Bay to resupply, and probably have to refit some of the guns as well. PBGR. If you were a captain of German U-boat started in 1945, what tactics would you use to stay alive to the end of the war? I would go out on patrol, and I would be very careful. I would navigate to Arctic waters. I'd make sure that was my detachment and my area, and I would sit next to a patch of ice until my patrol was over. So I was unlikely to be spotted by a searching aircraft, and not likely to spot any convoys. And if I did, I could take a shot at them, but I could hide underneath the ice and no one was going to attack me there. If you have Vanguard, I suspect the original invasion doesn't happen. Before Conqueror, you think maybe I can take on the arm of the Argentine Navy, but with Vanguard, is the Navy really going to sail? Well, the thing is, the Argentines could be counting on Vanguard not sailing, on the British not sending anything at all. Like, the British had aircraft carriers, they were counting on not sending them because they weren't proper aircraft carriers. They might convince themselves that Vanguard's not a proper battleship and it's not being properly maintained or something like that. It'd be interesting. As I've said before, this declaring war is not a rational act. So if someone decides to declare war, they're not doing it because of sensible reasons. Nice. How many auto-loading twin 6-inch guns could the British have got on an 1947 Minotaur hull? If you're going with the original build, you could probably have got 4, if not 5, of the twin 6-inch, and 4, if not 5, of the twin 3-inch on a Minotaur hull, on a full-size Minotaur hull. Grimhammer, do you think the Americans, the UK, British or Americans will eventually come on that it might not be a bad idea to big guns back on ship again? I'd say they have it now, but it's working out how to make it new enough that they can not look like they're going backwards is the problem. If you look at a lot of the work being done in guns, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 8-inch guns returning at some point soon. But I have this feeling that they're trying to work out exactly what they can say to make it look like they have got something new, not just returning to sensible technology. Thanks, Stafford. No, I think it's more that today was... How do I put this politely? Mum was not well and Karen was not well today, and that was part of the reasons for the stops. And so, yeah, it's not been fun. It's not necessarily been a good few days. It's taken us 3 days to get back from Cornwall. And yes, we were going at a slower pace for Mum, but it's a very expensive way to do it. It's also a very time-consuming way to do it, but it's sometimes a necessary way to do it. And honestly, the big lesson we've taken away from it, and this is going to sound very snobbish, but we were using travel lodges, which are perfectly nice hotels. If you're traveling around Britain and you need a motel, something quietly to sort of pull in for the night, travel lodges are perfectly fine. However, they're not good if you have complicated needs. Well, let me rephrase that. They're not always good if you have complicated needs. And for my mother and sister, they managed to muck it up every single night. So every single time we pulled into a place, I would spend 45 minutes to an hour and a half trying to sort things out. I get things sorted out and then there are more problems. I think one, during the middle of the night, I was manually carrying what do you call them? The things you sleep on, mattresses around the hotel, and moving them between rooms because the room they put in was not helping them at all. Despite theoretically being a disabled room, it had a beautiful toilet for Mum to use and assist her with that. But in terms of Mum's perfectly fine going to loo, etc. She just likes an armrest to help herself get up and down because of the problems with her knees and her hips, which is perfectly. That's when you're that age, that's fine. But the thing is, they had also given her what I would call a child's height bed, single bed to sleep in, and for some reason that wasn't high enough or viable enough for her to get in. It's a case of it's a disabled room. You've given them a bed that small. Why? What's on it? And it's just, yeah. Anyway, so I think next time we do the trips, I'm not sure where I'll find the money, but I'm finding the money and we're staying in decent hotels again. It just makes more sense. And that was what I was doing at 1 a.m. on Saturday morning, sorting out mattresses. And I was trying to do work as well at the same time as I was wandering around sorting out those. And then I had fun issues because Zebedee wasn't that well. He's okay now, but he wasn't that well. It's just added to it for fun. So he ended up being in my room with me, and yeah. No, cigarette one, it didn't have much of a chance. But it was a good idea. It just didn't have much of a chance. You may have covered this. How do you violate your pancreas? Well, this is in Dan's words. Because the last 72 hours, basically, I have lived off iron brew for the last 72 hours. I have had one Burger King burger. I've managed to have no water, no milk, despite trying to have anything like that. I have for the last 72 hours lived off iron brew. Which I know is not good. I do need to have more than iron brew to live. I should have some solid food occasionally, but that is all I've had so far. And Dan is worried about my pancreas because of this. Sometimes, if the Royal Navy had retained a heavy cruise up to Monday, what do you mind would it look like? An 8-inch twin autoloader or tried and true 666 with a Bruships stand flex? Either an 8 or 9.2-inch twin autoloader would be on the forward, and it would be Mark 41 VLS. It would be a couple of pairs, 2 pair of guns forward. Basically, the travel lodges are lovely, but also the travel lodges don't do things like breakfasts. They don't. Well, some do, but most don't. And the ones we stayed in definitely didn't. And yeah, the thing about them that causes most issue, I'd say, in this is when you have got people who've got weird needs, or well, not so weird needs, but non-regular needs. They only have one person on in the middle of the night, and so that person gets limited in what they can do. And it's nothing against those one people. They try their best, but there's only one of them. Whereas if you stay in a slightly more, how do I put this? Slightly more upmarket hotel. Let's just be honest. Slightly more upmarket. They usually have more people on. They also usually have food served, and they can cater for gluten-free. They can cater for all the various needs. I went at one point, was going off and trying to hunt a Chinese takeaway for my mum and sister. I managed to find something, and then my mum couldn't eat the dish I'd got for her because they made it funny, and so I gave her my dish, and then my sister couldn't eat her dish, so she got mum's dish, and my sister's dish was a vegetarian option, which is not good for me. Because I am like Drac, but worse. So, yeah. Karen, do you know that you can get a nebulizer that plugs in the car? Mum's the one that helps with travelling. Yes. And I agree, Karen, Premier Inn disabled rooms tend to be good, but most Premier Inns don't allow dogs. We have 2 of those, whereas the Travelodge, basically, when you're travelling with dogs, you have a choice in this country of either Travelodges or you're going to Hiltons or equivalents. Those are the 2 areas where they take dogs. Premier Inns, there are a couple which do, but most don't. There are all sorts of interesting issues once you're travelling with dogs. No, before I can eat, even in this house, in the house, I have to actually first get some food delivered. Oh, I will probably. Luckily, there are some takeaways which are open at this time on a Sunday night in Epsom area. Bad, Nate was drawing bad. Yeah, I'll be good with my body. I stop drinking so much iron brew. I'll drink water and milk. Thank you, Stafford. It's not good. I know it's not. I know I should not. I should be surviving on more than iron brew. Please note, I am usually far more sensible. But the thing was, I had 3 bottles of iron brew with me in the car, and so I thought, well, it's better to drink that than have nothing. Especially after I'd handed my water over because my mum had run out of her water after having asthma attacks. It's great fun. It was basically, if you were looking up the definition of family road convoy road trip from a nightmare, it would come up as that. Besides, Dan has seen me at breakfast, and on our travels, have far more than just iron brew. And he's also seen me in Australia literally drink 2 carafes of Coke. And everyone else is ordering, yeah, I ordered a glass of Coke, and I'm going, the glasses are tiny. Do you have, what's the other thing? We have a carafe of Coke, which is 6 glasses of Coke. Usually for a group of people. I'll have a carafe of Coke for myself, thank you. Turns up, drinks it. Can I have another? And the waiter is looking at me going, how do you consume that? My body's trained to. Would a 4.5-inch gun have been a better choice for the James AF's first generation destroyers than the American 3-inch 50s? Well, the 3-inch 50s is a better AA weapon, but the 4.5-inch is a better general purpose weapon. So it's, what do you think you need to go and do, man? Considering the James DF are about self-defense, probably the 3-inch 50s are the best option for them politically. Nice here. Who else has it better? The Iran Navy reusing old revenge names, or the USN with presidents? I think the Iran Navy uses a lot of old capital ship names and first ships. I would say once you start going down the president's route, it's hard to get off, as getting off the presidents is going to at any point be seen as a political decision. It's like if the moment you decide you don't want to use a certain president's name for an aircraft carrier, or presidents for an aircraft carrier, it's been making it political. You can understand the no Nixon route, that's fine. But you have to set the precedent that they have to actually be resigned from office in disgrace, and then, okay, who else are you going to do? How else are you going to define it? And you either have to go completely no presidents, in which case that's going to be rather a sad run to come to the end, because having the presidents has been rather a nice bit of history, or you have to go a different way. That's it. Why did the Polo's crew discipline break down to the point that panic set in? Pretty much, they are surrounded. The Polos are just, they know it. They're outgunned, they're surrounded, they know something's really bad is coming their way. Yeah. It breaks down. But the trouble is, the Americans have done some problematic presidents. If we consider if we consider some of the recent aircraft carriers for the US Navy, you know, some of the aircraft carriers, they've been named for Forrestal, which was named for the first United States Secretary of Defense. You've got John F. Kennedy. Well, let's be honest, the guy has some interesting points and some good speeches, but he was also definitely not Me Too friendly, in that he had an interesting relationship with the fairer sex. Nimitz, probably fine. Then you have Dwight D. Eisenhower. Carl Vinson, which is again named for a congressman from Georgia. Okay. Teddy Roosevelt. Abraham Lincoln. George Washington. John C. Stennis. Another senator from Mississippi. Harry S. Truman. Ronald Reagan. George W. Bush. Gerald R. Ford. We've got John F. Kennedy II coming. We've got the Doris Miller, which is named for a sailor. And you've got, you know, the Enterprise. The thing is, there are issues there. There's also been the Franklin Roosevelt. And anything else more interesting? No, Franklin Roosevelt was pretty darn close to him in his lifetime. But yeah, the US, once you start naming things after presidents, you have issues. You automatically turn it into a political football. I don't know. I had to say, I am going to go finish in 5 minutes. But I've got to bring out Lexington, Yorktown, Essex names. That would be quite a good one to go to. I've had a waitress, when I asked for another refill before she went back in, after she had filled the rest of the table with drinks, placed a pitcher on the table. I moved my straw from my glass to the pitcher. That seems sensible to me. I would agree, Colin. If a 1 1/4 litre Coke is only a penny more expensive than a 500ml, I would get the 1 1/4 litre. Oh, that's a party platter. It serves 12 people. I know what I'm at. That's Ron Swanson, of course, and as we all know, Ron Swanson is in many ways the absolute hero of everyone who has a fine, you know, a fine facial hair. That's interesting one, Stafford. Yeah, that is the question, Stafford. You have to remember, and this is one of the reasons why we do the hotels we do. also is that they have gyms and other things which allow functioning insomniacs to be kept busy at night without going wandering around the cities too much. And no one wants to share a room with me. No one. We have been we discussed this before the Australia trip to save money, and it was universally agreed that no one wished to share a room with me and my waking hours. And that's quite honest. Again, look, nicest way. This is what no one wants to do. That one. Night, Leslie. So the senator name carriers were a deal to get a president name on the carrier. 4 separate bunk rooms, shared galley, and I believe 1 to 2 heads. That sounds like it could be possible. We'll have to see. I do agree Miller deserves a ship named after him. What springs to mind is when George V said, "You're not putting Cromwell name on one of my ships." Yeah, Cromwell and Pitt. 2 good things not to put on ships. Yeah, Pipersonics question is still in the pipeline, and it will be worked on. It will be worked on. Hello, Jack Ray. Dan Freeman and Drac. Hey, didn't we move more next to a lovely bridge and lock system? Yes, we have. I can see that now. This is worrying. Okay, look. In the nicest way, I got some lovely photographs from walking around the various cities we stayed in Australia at night. And I got photos of them in the dark. And I mean, I got some lovely photos. I wandered... in Sydney, there was a full lights and a public art show, which was on every night. And I wandered all the way through it. I also have to say, I found beignets there. I found all sorts of food, which was bad for me in that area. It was lovely. And that was what I spent many evenings between the hours of 1 AM and 4 AM doing. I've asked something like this before. Unintended are cruisers, but have sub-6-inch guns. What's the criteria? Displacement or guns? Displacement. Guns, they had a maximum. They didn't have a minimum. Would the Royal Navy boarding crews who boarded Polo, if they had time to properly assess the situation, realize what was happening and why Polo crew were drunk and undressed? Probably. If they'd had time and wanted to do so. Not really my area of expertise, but from what I do know, I wouldn't describe it as an IL-76. I'm British IL-76. I'd say the SC-545 is slightly different than that. Q&A thread is slow. Does seem to be very slow today. Update on the ebooks. Basically, some people are very nice already. Paul's been very nice already and sent me some money to put towards the pictures, which I have put towards pictures. And I've got to probably organise more money, but also, it's going to sound strange, there's things I want to do to edit and put them into the final ebook form to publish them. And there are only so many hours, even with me being a functioning insomniac, in a day. And if I'm spending those hours in hospitals and house hunting and travelling, I'm not spending those hours doing those other things. So that's the delay. And that's me being quite frank, really. Honestly, I've got to get the issues for Mum sorted out. She doesn't deserve the problem she's having at the moment. And frankly, yeah. Okay, Steve. Yeah, I agree. I did say I would do so. Right, I'm gonna, start heading off. So, final questions. What was the best named French battleship? I'm gonna go for Riculou, because it's named for Cardinal Riculou, and he was one scary fella. Jean Bart is another good one, but honestly, the Jean Bart never really gets the same fame as the Riculou. Whereas the Riculou does get some fame, and deserves it, so yeah, I'll go for Riculou. As best named French car. Yeah. It really is a shame Darth Miller was sent straight back out the ship, never to be heard from again. But that's probably what he would have wanted. Not to be heard from again, but I probably wouldn't have wanted to be sitting on the side being used as some sort of show pony. He'd have wanted to go and get on with the work. Catherine, how could the 30.5-inch British armor ships change if the Colossus class dreadnoughts were like Rio de Janeiro in design? How could they change? If you're making them like Rio de Janeiro, you might actually end up with a slightly faster ship overall if it's British building for British on the Rio de Janeiro lines, but not really that much. Not yet, man. I haven't looked at the look. And Danny, right, answer the question is, well, Mum's mentally fine. It's the physical issues which are problems. And the trouble is, one of the things she's allergic to is tap water. You would not have... you have no idea how much of an issue that causes in arranging even short visits to medical facilities. Because we have to take liquids in with us. She is fine on water which has been filtered, fine on water which has gone through all those things, but that she's tap water she's not good on. She just literally, she looks like she's had Botox. She had ice in one of her drinks. This was a few years ago. Must have been the year before, 2017. She went up to a show up in central London. So we're talking 6 or so years ago. And I was standing outside the train station, waiting with the dog, as she came out the train station, and honestly, she looked like she just had Botox injections, and she had literally had a couple of ice cubes in her glass, and the ice had been made using tap water. So she's fun. She's fun to have in a care facility, because the trouble is, there are often a lot of people in there who are well-meaning, very kind, and they might not think about things like that. We have the whole house set up to deal with those issues. But yeah. She's allergic to one of the things which is added into tap water in the UK. I have to say I'm perfectly fine on all of them, and 99% of the people are, but my mum has developed some weird allergies over the years. It's fun. Yeah, I did know what you think about AK to 14 12-inch guns. Having a lot of 12-inch guns would be nice, but also if the British are going to put in that many guns, they're going to make it on a slightly longer hull. So if they were going for 14 guns, they'd probably want it slightly longer, which might mean it was slightly faster. Domino's Pizza. There are plenty of pizza places open. Yeah. I actually don't think it's chlorine or fluoride that she's allergic to. It's something. My mum drinks. It's quite funny. Basically, she shows her family roots, and we show her family roots quite a lot. It's Highland Spring the whole time for my mum, literally. Occasionally Buxton will go down, and there is Cornish spring water, but that's less able to be got outside of Cornwall, but you can get it done in Cornwall. And she's fine with all those. But that was the trouble. She had an asthma attack on the way up, and she used up all her water she was carrying for upway, so all the water which I had in my car for me, which of course I got the same machine, it was for her, signed for her, and then I didn't have a chance to get to a place that get any water. It was a comedy of errors. It was a fine time. Everyone, is there a way we can? I'd like to go for me. Not yet, but I might set something up through PayPal, or I might just set up the PayPal link and tell people to do that. But honestly, I haven't had the time to push that, and I don't. This is the thing. If we manage to move in January, like we're hoping to, if we find a place and I'm moving in January, I want to be completely honest. If that's on my plate, I don't see the books getting finished before, getting to the point at which they're going to be. I need to buy the pictures and put it all together before March. That's just me being honest. There's limited hours in the day, and that's the thing. So, Paul was very generous, and I would like to say, I'm saying publicly thank you for Paul. I'm going to say publicly thank you to Paul. But I would also say that money is now parked for me to buy the. I've bought the picture for that with that money, so it's paid for. But the thing is, I would prefer to leave it till I'm free and clear of the housing stuff, and I can just go, yeah, we're fine, let's do it, this is going to be done. And I do agree, distilled water tastes awful. I have drunk it. No, UK tap water is some of the best tap water in the world. It's just some of the additives added to it, i.e. fluoride, etc. And some of the ways they're processed, it actually seems to affect my mum. It doesn't affect anyone else I know. Cardinal Rickley got a massive PR boost from doing massive books. That's true. Southampton is given the answer how the coming of Dunkirk, both being great battle and a horrible defeat within 100 years of each other. Dichotomy of Dunkirk. It's an interesting idea, but the thing is, the trouble is for Dunkirk, is the ship itself had a bit of a run of bad luck. So that's why I would go Rickley. Oh, I know a fair amount about fluoride, Richards. It's fun. How did they do when they shut down production a few years ago when they had to move the sheep off the hills and flush the reservoir? Not well. Not well at all. Right. I'm going to call it a finish there. I think I'm going to end the questions. I hope there are none going through. I sort of tried to give it time. Ay, caramba. End Q&A. Confirm. That should go to... that check I haven't missed any of the super chats. No, I haven't. Thank you everyone for your support. And thank you everyone for chatting away. And I will see you tomorrow evening for the Battle of Sinop. Live, which will be quite good. I'm sorry that had to be moved from Thursday to Monday, but honestly, Thursday got away with me because we were having all sorts of issues. They're hopefully it's going to be sorted out tomorrow by tomorrow's hospital visit. That's going to hopefully help things and sort things out for everyone. Thank you, Team Locker. Thank you, Albert Tasky. Thank you, DJ40. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Steve Clarke. Thank you, everyone who's been here. Thank you, Danny Wright. Thank you, Melly1640. Thank you, Jack Ray. Thank you, Atros Ford. What would result from the marriage of the Blackburn, and the Burn? Nothing good. Oh, good lord. Just imagine the fact that if the Blackburn had been, if the Burn had been designed with that, orientated with the idea that Blackburn was going to fly for it, it would have had a lift designated for the Blackburn. Just think about that. Thank you, Bug Guy 8829. Thank you, Renan. Thank you, Atros Ford. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Danny Wright. Thank you, Joss Funk. Thank you, Paul Amos. And thank you, everyone. 27 questions next Sunday. I look forward to that night to go for one. Thank you, Teshu Vishal. Thank you, Colin Cameron. And I shall give you a heads up that tomorrow's videos Our HMS Formidable is tomorrow's short. That's tomorrow's short. And tomorrow's Q&A, comment response is... It's the Amagi class. Not a very long one, because there weren't many questions on the Amagi class for some reason. But it is done. And the one on Tuesday is the Francisco Caracola class. Also on Tuesday, scheduled currently there in the evening for the long patrol in the evening on the Tuesday, is the Scharnhorst class. It was going to be one of the Australia ships, but I haven't had a chance to edit that in. Because instead of me editing it on Saturday night, which was the plan, I was instead organising and moving around mattresses. Great fun. Take care, everyone. Thank you, everyone, and take care. Alright then, let's see. That's... Not that one. That one? No. Wrong image? I'm fairly sure there's an image here which is supposed to cover the whole screen with Bruships. Well, that's just... Da-da-da-da. Right. There we go. Thank you, everyone. Take care, and hope you have a nice evening. I will check out the locks on DM. Thank you very much, everyone, and have fun.